So we acquire two types of images. Those that contain functional information about where there's brain activity, and another that gives us information about brain anatomy. The goal of using brain imaging is to help us understand how the brain is specialized for different functions. And the function that we're interested in is reading. People who doubt whether there's such a thing as dyslexia, I think that there should be no doubt in their mind because the research is so clear. The technology that we use, brain imaging, is one of the areas where I think it's really helped people understand that even though this is an invisible condition, it's now become visible because we can see it in the brain. It's been known for almost 30 years now that when you look at the brain anatomy of a person with and without dyslexia, that there are some differences that you can see almost with a naked eye. And what people have found is that when you look at readers who are skilled readers, we see a network in the left hemisphere involving regions in the temporal lobe, and then up in parietal areas, and then in frontal regions. Three areas that are sort of the typical network involved in reading. And what we find is that in people who are dyslexic readers, areas in the back of the brain don't tend to be engaged during the reading process like they are in non-dyslexic readers. And what this is showing you is that areas in the left hemisphere tend to be underactivated in people with dyslexia. That they're underactivating areas back here in the brain in parietal and temporal cortices. But what's striking here are the changes that we observed in the right hemisphere. And we don't think of the right hemisphere as being that involved in the reading process. And the change seems to have been brought about in part by the right hemisphere chiming in to what is normally considered a left hemisphere function. So developmental dyslexia is a learning disability. In the field of learning disabilities, it's the most prominent learning disability. It accounts for about 80% of all learning disabilities. Why do children have dyslexia? Well, for a number of reasons. Again, it's thought to be heritable, so you will see in some individuals who have dyslexia that they have it in their family. If you have a parent with dyslexia, the chances that their child will have dyslexia are between 35 and 40%. So it runs in families, we know that. But I think it's important to recognize that when you work with a student who has dyslexia, that this is a lifelong issue. It doesn't go away. So it helps in terms of having them develop the right attitude to recognize that they will always have to deal with this. But the majority of the population with dyslexia is adult, and people shouldn't give up on the adults. The problem is that the adults are no longer in an educational setting where they receive interventions. And so they don't often have access to continuing to improve their reading skills. But what we and others have shown is that when you teach an adult with dyslexia to learn to read, they can still make gains. And the brain is really quite plastic. It shows a really significant way in which it's organized for reading.